Today, we're very excited to be here hosting our first webinar of this series, reviewing alternatives now that the Google Search Appliance has faded away. But before we get started, I'm going to go over some ground rules. To ensure audio quality, you are all in listen-only mode, but we always encourage questions, so please feel free to submit those in the GoToWebinar chat area, and we'll be happy to assist you during the webinar or at the end during the Q&A session. If you're having any issues at all, just email us at marketing@MC+A, or you can also follow us on Twitter, and we'll respond via direct message. So let's get started. Our agenda for today, we're going to start by telling you a little bit about MC+A. We'll give a brief overview of the Google Search Appliance and then go straight into the steps and alternatives you should be following to plan your transition. Last but not least, we have a special guest from Lucidworks, and we'll then go over some GSA managed services by MC+A and have a Q&A session. So I'm going to present our speakers for today. So first we have Michael Sismer. He's our Managing Director at MC+A. We also have Steven Klava. Steven is the GSA Deployment Specialist. And last but not least, we have William Singh. He is the Senior Sales Engineer at Lucidworks. And today he'll be sharing with us a little bit about Lucidworks Fusion and telling us why this is the platform you should move forward now that the GSA is fading away. So welcome, everyone.
Thank you, Maria. And this is Michael Sismar. And thank you, Stephen and William, for joining me. And to all of you attendees, please feel free to throw questions into the GoToWebinar question panel. We may not catch them at the time, but we will spend some time at the end to cover questions. And if we run out of time, we will follow up with every question that's put up there. So if it's not completely on context, we may follow up with it offline, but every question will be answered. So kind of starting off, hopefully everyone here knows about MC+A. We were an award-winning Google for Work Google Cloud partner. We worked with the Google Search Appliance since 2005. We primarily work in North and South America, selling cognitive search solutions. We bring a wealth and experience of, through that time, taking the Google Search Appliance into customers, deploying it, being a reseller of it, developing connectors and customizations for it. We have offices here in Chicago, where I'm based, and Steven's based, out in San Francisco in Silicon Valley, and down in Santiago, Chile, which serves as our LATAM presence. Kind of when people ask us what we do, what we attempt to do is to take very complicated technical solutions and implement them for our customers and make them appear to be simple. And I think that some of the things that William will be talking about as well applies to Fusion, but that's certainly the was a key selling point to the Google Search Appliance, that enterprise search is a very complicated, very technical, exploratory technology, and putting all that technology into a 2U server and getting it to do the things that it did was remarkable at the time. Still is today to some degree, but what we've really found is that that is what our customers want. They're looking for solutions that have been well thought out. They're looking for solutions that are not kind of one-off, bake-offs to what they're doing, and that they encompass the best of breed, best practices. Some of our clients, we work both coasts, Central and Latin America, a lot of high-tech, financial services, and et cetera, but a lot of marquee names. The practice areas that we focus on: enterprise search, also cognitive search, analytics, and the practice areas that really sit underneath that are custom application development. So that's just doing general systems integration or website development. And then anytime you take in technology into new organizations, you really a real focus is on change management and making sure that the customer is able to adapt their processes and procedures to the technology that we're bringing out. So we kind of, in looking at what the GSA did, we want to step back and say what was the problem that it solved. And the problem is that there are large, now they call them data lakes, but data repositories kind of matched up to departments or technology stacks, and people could not find or gather insights into what they were looking for. Lots of that data is unstructured, meaning that it's not stored in a format of fields and columns, Word documents, PDFs, images, and so on. And that makes it very hard for a lot of information retrieval systems to analyze and interpret and provide insights into the technology that is that's there. This is I think a Forrester or a Gartner stat that most of us spend a great deal of our time accessing these systems to try to get information to complete our workflows. The stat here is 2.5 hours a day. So if we can make that information worker more productive during that 2.5 hours, that either reducing it or in some other way that we gain great value out of the system. And one of my favorite people, one of my favorite expressions is from Donald Rumsfeld. He made this claim of there's known knowns, there's known unknowns, unknown unknowns, and unknown knowns. So a lot of times you don't even know what to ask for, and that's where Google.com comes in and makes it just seem amazing. So you find an article about a topic that you're interested in, or a news article that you didn't know existed, and you think search is great, and then when you get into your corporate life, you know that there's this document and you just cannot seem to find it, and you cannot tell the search system what to do. So what we look to help achieve it is that we help you find information that's not there, and the information that you do know that there, we try to help you analyze it in a faster, more constructive manner. This is sort of the landscape that we play in, a system of systems. Every enterprise has, they don't seem to have a single storage repository. They have Google Drive, Dropbox, Box, and so even among technology categories, companies have multiple systems or multiple bug trackers. And where was the ticket created for this? Was it in Jira? Was it in Mantis or something else? So that's kind of the backdrop of what the GSA tried to solve. And then we've been broadcasting this every month. We're moving along through the timeline. In 2002, the GSA first came out, and at that point in time, it was a simple web crawler, a 1U appliance, and it grew till last year when it was announced for deprecation. So as of now, we're only selling 1-year extensions or renewals to current customers. There are no new sales, and then at the end of this year, GSAs will start to shut off. So there's some grandfathered licenses in, but in general, the GSA that you have will shut off when the license expires, unless you are in some process for renewing it this year, and then it'll be when that new license is extended. But essentially, December 31st or slightly before, we'll no longer be selling anything with the Google Search Appliance. So we think that it's in our customers and everyone's best interest to start thinking about this as soon as possible, to give you the most time to look at alternative solutions and really gauge what you need to do. The first thing we suggest is to start with an assessment, and the assessment, like all things, is a way to go through and catalog why you made an investment in the Google Search Appliance. Also, literally where are they? We have customers who, because they set it up and they don't really spend much time working on it, they don't know who currently owns it from an administration standpoint or from a budget standpoint, who's the administrator, how it works. It's just a little bit of magic. So the first thing to do, and then when you're talking with us or Lucidworks or whomever, they're going to ask kind of some questions that your assessment will help provide them in terms of the complexity involved. If you're going to do a simple migrate, which I don't want to say it's ever simple, but if you're simply migrating, that they'll ask, and that'll help them get the complexity. We have an assessment guide, which you can go to our website, do a search if it's not obvious, and you can request it and take a look through it. So a lot of these questions are there, so you don't have to scramble down and write them. So once you finish the assessment, you want to take a look at, did we achieve our goals? And be honest and find out what worked, what didn't work, what did you like, what didn't you like, because that's going to really gauge which direction you go to. An advantage of who we're talking with today is that it's both an on-prem and potentially cloud offering that you can work. So it doesn't have to run on the cloud as a software as a service. You can run it on cloud infrastructure. You can run it on your own hardware or environments. But one big question that we ask is, are you looking for an OEM equivalent? Because we don't think you should, and that's kind of a deciding factor, because the GSA really hasn't been updated in 2 or 3 years significantly. And in that time, that's 2 more cycles. There's tremendous capabilities and shifts in the industry landscape that you want to take into consideration in making any investment, even if it's to simply maintain parity. And then, as always, want to plan for the future. So the replacement from Google is called Springboard. It was announced last June. There was a further announcement at BoxWorks regarding some integration between Springboard and Box. We have heard unofficially that we should expect a announcement soon with regards to general availability of some sort. We are trusted testers on it right now, so we're using the technology and giving feedback to Google. So that is the first one. The pluses and minuses of Springboard are that it runs just in the cloud, so you don't need any hardware, software. It's tied to Google Apps, so if you have your content in Google Drive, Google Sites, you're going to find it amazing because those particular technologies aren't really known for their search capabilities. If your content is not just in those areas, you're going to find it frustrating because as of now, there's no ingestion framework to push content into it. And if you're like an Office 365 customer, if you don't really use Google Apps, you might find it frustrating because it is baked into kind of the Google Apps ecosystem. So I think that if you follow us or you follow the topic, probably in the next 30 days or so, there should be a fairly significant announcement about the next step in this direction. So one of your options in moving from the GSA is to go into a pure cloud offering. We have a couple of the big vendors here. Coveo has a cloud software as a service, AWS Cloud Search, and Elastic. And these, the AWS and Elastic are based on Elastic and a Lucidworks index. Coveo is a proprietary index, but they are purely in this case, offered as endpoints that you push content to, or and retrieve content out of that API. So the data doesn't really reside in your premise, and you'll have to kind of deal with those challenges. Here, talking specifically about Coveo, they are the leader in the Magic Quadrant. They are they have a lot of integration points into Salesforce and Sitecore. So if you have the Service Cloud or Sales Cloud, there are widgets already ready to go to kind of enhance that experience. AWS Cloud Search, it's fully managed. You just spin it up, use it as you need it, spin it down, and when you don't, auto scales and so on. And Elastic has a similar interface. So this is taking Elastic and putting it into a SaaS offering, making it ready to run. And Elastic, they're the makers of Elastic. So if you're going to go with Elastic, we kind of limited our two recommendations around it, although there are no shortage of managed Elastic providers. So the other choice is really to go on-prem. And with on-prem, we're looking at our friends here today, Lucidworks, Solar, or an Elastic offering of some sort. Elastic is one of the leaders in open source search. If you buy the subscription edition, it has things like security and managed as a cluster and Kibana, and so on. Solar, is a framework for building the search solution, but it really requires a lot of knowledge in order to do that. Our preference or our recommendation on this route is to go with Lucidworks. They have, and William will talk more detail than this, but it's more of a ready-to-run solution, and Lucidworks retains a lot of the intellectual capital around Solar. And without further ado, William, I will give it over to you.
So Lucidworks, we're based out of San Francisco. Just a little bit about the company. We're the primary sponsor for Apache Solar. So we've been doing work on Solar for a long time. Originally, we were a Solar consultancy shop. So we did, we built applications on Solar. We built a lot of, various tools and things around Solar like that. We still employ probably about 40% of the active committers to the open source Apache Solar project. And for every release, we commit a good 70–80% of the code back to the open source code base. So we're very dedicated to making sure that Solar is actually very performant, because it is, Solar is a big core of Fusion. It's what houses the index. Fusion is a big wrapper around Solar. So we'll get deeper into that, but just trying to set the ground here. What I'm going to talk about and what we've seen in the field really. I don't think anyone's going to argue with the point that if you're not in the digital business, you're going to be out of business, right? We've seen especially common in e-commerce, for e-commerce, right? If a lot of stores out there right now didn't make the transition fast enough from their homegrown local stores up into the e-commerce and the business, they're getting spanked by Amazon, they're getting spanked by Newegg, they're getting hit by all these companies that made that transition into digital business faster and are successful at it, right? A lot of those companies are they're running Solar, some are running Fusion as well, so a lot of successful business out there is now they're moving into that digital space. Again, 47% projected revenue influenced by digital alone. That's not even just limited now to e-commerce. That's growing, right? That's support centers are moving into a deeper search, right? So other areas, enterprise search, the best companies I've seen out there with good enterprise searches are finding efficiency there, right? And search itself, is a really I'm trying to get this slide to move forward here, hopefully. There we go. In search itself, it's a primary value, in this transition, right? A lot of the best things that I did with search, Even before I came to Lucidworks, it was building, scalable applications out of a search engine, right? Most search engines are scalable. Fusion and Solar, of course, on that list, but a lot of applications are now being built on top of search that may not necessarily have a search basis. Looks like I skipped the slide here, but skip to this slide. But anyway, either way, I mean, if you can't find what you're looking for, then none of these use cases work for you, right? We've ran into a lot of these use cases just on GSA, and online retail, research and development, there are tons of use cases that can be built off of search, and not to mention, scalable applications that you can build from your search engine. But I mean, what we've seen, what I've seen, I've been working with enterprise search for a while. I've done a lot with e-commerce as well, but enterprise search itself is broken. It hasn't really worked. It was supposed to be fixed. We would hope, 2 years ago, right? GSA actually, I definitely have nothing bad to say towards GSA. They brought actually a very good, platform into the search business. Various connectors, being able to bring all of your data into one point. But that was actually, I felt like, the limit of GSA's power, right? There, anything after that was custom development, modifying relevancy. A lot of GSAs, would, become irrelevant after 6 months because, they weren't being updated, right? A lot of that is kind of the goals of what we've done with Fusion. How we want to transition search into the future, right? It's more than just bringing in your data now. That's definitely, of course, a big part of it. We want to also be able to work with that data. We want a relevancy model that's dynamic. We want it to be evolving over time and not just static. So a lot of these things we'll take a quick view about today, and of course, as we keep moving forward, if you want to have any questions or you want to deep dive into something after this call, feel free to reach out. But really, I mean, user expectations have changed over time, right? Your customers, your end users, they expect Amazon. Your employees, they expect Google, right? I don't know how many, that's part of why GSA was so popular, but I don't know how many times I've gone to a call and the customer immediately says, I want my enterprise search to work exactly like Google, and I have to come back at them and I'm like, well, you have about 10,000 engineers to make that, happen the way you want to, right? So that's part of the reason, and again, all of that, coming together. That's why we built Fusion, right? Big data was supposed to help eliminate all of these silos, right? I think Michael showed a great slide above of all of these various silos, Jive, all of these different S3 Box. Big data was supposed to eliminate these silos, bring it all into one place, to be retrieved. But in reality, big data failed in a lot of ways. Big data actually made silos bigger. It essentially added an additional silo to the entire stack, and it didn't help retrieval in any way. Big data search, and big data itself, kind of pretty much failed. And in the end, I mean, IT is not equipped for search, and this is really not a bash against IT at all. It's just saying IT has tons of stuff to do. They have 20 critical projects that need to, be done, over the course of the years, and they don't have time to manage and maintain search, right? You have to go out. You may have to hire someone to do, to maintain all of this. IT is just, they've got other things to do than to sit and babysit, a search engine to make it optimal. But I mean, again, in the end, this is why we built Fusion. We saw an opportunity with all of our, solar expertise and all the consulting that we had done around solar to, leverage, all of these tools that we have been building over time into one platform. And, one, to bring solar, which is already itself in and of itself an incredibly scalable platform, and give it, the front-end UI tools to be a true enterprise-grade search engine. So I mean, really, just starting off, I mean, from a GSA's perspective, I think everyone's familiar. We've got connectors, right? We have currently about 50 connectors. We tend to build them on demand. We also have a lot of partners that we've gone through. I'm guessing MC+A can also help along these lines. But we have other partners that we partner with as well, who've been very familiar with how connectors work in GSA and have been porting those connectors over to Fusion to give us even more robust connectors and supported connectors as well. So we have over 50 connectors, but we also have, underneath that layer, we have a parsing framework. So we have a framework that allows you to create various parsers to be able to parse, different types of data, right? We can decide what pieces of data come in or what documents come in, and then decide how to parse that out. And even further than that, we also have what we call index pipeline, or you can think of it as transformation layer or ETL process that will allow you to basically break that down even more. You can create different natural language processing units to process various parts of your content. You can do regex extractions. You can do even JDBC lookups. And even since we're an open core platform, you can even spin up your own, use our APIs, and build your own pipelines to do any kind of data processing that you want. Even then, we also have a security model that's enforced so that if you have document level security, whether that's through Jive, SharePoint, even just a file share, right? We can index those ACLs, and then at query time, we can only retrieve the documents that your users have access to look at. And then from there, so once you've got all your data in, then what's the next step, right? Then it's time to manage the experience for your users, right? It's time to, create, take a query that your user gives you and then tune it so that you give them back the best result possible. So, so this is, while on the indexing side we have a lot of tools, this is where a lot of the bread and butter is when it comes to, tuning relevancy, bringing back the best search results that you can give to your users. So, just from a tuning perspective, since we had index pipelines, right, to index data, so we have query pipelines to help tune relevancy. And you can create as many query pipelines as you want for, whether you have various different content sources that you want to surface differently. You can create, unique experiences for your users through these query pipelines. So relevancy tuning, just out of the standard, you can do, boosts and blocks, over certain fields. You can, tune and tokenize and analyze fields to specific, how you want it to be indexed and how you want it to be retrieved. But the big thing, here I think is our machine-driven relevancy, which we call signals, right? And various search companies have different variants of this, but we have, again, since we are an open source and open core based solution, we want to give our users as much power as possible to tune this machine-driven relevancy, and this is where you get your dynamic search experience, where as you capture what your users are doing, whether that's through analytics, or whether you capture them directly. So we can take that, whether your users click on an item, whether they view it, download it maybe, especially for e-commerce, whether they add it to a cart or they actually buy it, right? They actually convert on it, right? These are pieces of information that we can take and individually, set, through our recommendations engine, whether we're doing some basic recommenders or, even complex ones through ALS, and basically, give that back to your users. So we close that feedback loop of saying, your users gave you a piece of information. Let's take it and let's use it to make their search experience better. And this is dynamic. This means that you can run these jobs, every hour, every 10 minutes, however often you want, and essentially you have built an updated relevancy system. This is what allows your search to continue to evolve over time, as opposed to staying static. And then once you get new data, then your search is suddenly out of whack, and you have to go back and you have to do additional work to it. But yeah, so that really, that's from an experience management perspective, from the, from relevancy, that's probably one of the best tools that we offer through the query pipelines to, help you tune and improve relevancy over time. And then, of course, we do have a turnkey UI that we actually built specifically for our GSA customers who, wanted a very quick UI to stand up called Lucidworks View. You can build an end-to-end search application, in hours, and it's definitely the more complex your search application gets, obviously the more time it's going to take, but allow you to stand up a very quick search application, that's usable to your users in very little time. Transition here, hopefully. one of these times it's going to go. There we go. So talking a little bit about operational simplicity, right? This is, I think, more for those people who, have seen solar and, it seems like a lot of work to get solar running, because we've got, we have to run, Apache Zookeeper, which is responsible for distributed computing. We've had solar, and then if we want to add Spark and Hadoop to it, and then, how do we get data in, right? We don't have any connectors really. I mean, there's Nutch and a few other ones out there. And then if we want to, create a UI to manage all of this and scheduling, security relevance tools, like you're rolling all of this stuff on your own, right? So, at the end when we came up with Fusion, we said, okay, let's take, what's on the right side of your screen, Spark, Solar, and Zookeeper, and let's abstract that essentially, and then we'll put all of our core services into Fusion, whether it's connectors, pipelines, security, etc. We'll put all that in Fusion. We'll allow connectors to bring data in, and then we will, create the UI, whether that's the admin UI, the user interface, the analytics UI, or Lucidworks View on the side, so that, so we simplify the deployment. We make it very linear for you to be able to control what your deployment of Fusion looks like. So, and just to kind of, we abstract the backend, the backend Solar, the backend Zookeeper, so that you don't have to worry about that half and worry about managing that half. We do all that work for you. So I mean, in the end, Fusion itself, manages, your solars. If you're already running solar, we can jump on top of it, and we can place Fusion on the side, connect it to the solar, and we can start managing it through there. Everything in Fusion's built. We built Fusion based on our API platform that's available to you as end users to be able to build search applications off of, right? So everything is available through our API. We built our solution on top of our API. So if you wanted to build your own Fusion solution on our APIs, you probably could. You'd have to download Fusion and have the API service running, but you could technically build your own search engine off of our search engine if you really wanted to do that. But end to end, we have security policies, that will allow you to, configure various users. So if you want your business users to be able to go in and manage rules and synonyms and stop words, but you don't want to give them the ability to accidentally delete the collection, which has happened, you can create end-to-end security policies and roles so that your users can have individual roles throughout the platform. And really finally, Fusion itself, it runs off of Solar. It's distributed through, through Zookeeper. So, we're fault tolerant. We scale linearly, depending on your data and depending on the usage. So your queries per second of your entire, throughout your search application. So for those of you who are coming from GSA, who are used to a documents-based pricing model, we price, very differently. Actually, we price based on performance. So, we price based on, how many cores you use up. And we have a good sizing policy and best practices around that. But really, if you start hitting, caps, which, let's say in our smallest environment, which would be, a 16 core or 4, if you divide it into 4-node environment, that covers you for a good probably 25 million documents, which is a lot, and we can talk to our sales team about what the pricing is, but we cover for a good 25 million documents and 50 queries per second, just based off of general sizing practices. So we cover you guys for a lot of storage in that case. Just a quick muscle flex here of our the companies, some of the companies that we've worked with. As you can see, there are various different use cases here, from e-commerce to enterprise to e-discovery to customer success portals. So just various amounts of use here, and many different search engines other than GSA replaced with these companies. So just to walk through some of a couple of GSA use cases that we've worked with a few of our companies. This one's for Red Hat. We replaced their GSA in February 26, 2015, which is actually was a very early version of Fusion. So it's already 2017. The product's been out for 2 years now. So Red Hat, they were a customer success portal using GSA. They were struggling. Their call centers were getting overrun because people couldn't find what they were looking for in their success portal. So they came to us. We implemented Fusion for them. Went live February 26th, and they immediately saw an uptick. And basically, their ROI from switching over from GSA to Fusion is that now their call centers they're not overrun. People are finding more things online. They're finding things faster than they would, even calling into their call center. So, one, they're getting happier, more successful customers, but their call centers are also saving money because they're also rather than being bottled up with unimportant calls that could have probably been solved by search, they're now helping their customers with tougher issues that whether or not they found it in search or maybe not even as part of their online support portal. So a lot of great things happening there, and they're also in the process of implementing Signals there as well. So they're hoping to see an even better uptick as customers start helping each other find things based on what they've searched for and what support article they've looked at. Info blocks. I apologize for the tiny text here, but for info blocks is actually a very standard enterprise search GSA replacement. We spoke with them. They downloaded Fusion, and then we gave the view, and they were super happy. And they're probably one of our better stories where they said, hey, we got enterprise search before lunch, which is one of our most favorite quotes. But really, I mean, in the end, we cut down on their development time, substantially, because they were thinking of going with Solar, so we cut down on their development time there, moving to our platform, and then we even cut their licensing cost off of GSA by 50%. So, they came off of their GSA, moved on to Fusion, and they saved money in the end, and that's awesome. So, and they also got a very feature-rich solution that with Signals allows them to essentially set and forget, and let their users determine what's important, and let their users determine what their relevancy model should look like. And finally, just a great Signals example here. We replaced mobile search for Vegas.com with Fusion. So again, Fusion runs off of APIs. We use those APIs to help them build their mobile environment. And again, this is all about conversions here, right? So Signals and recommenders. Machine learning plays a huge role here on top of search. So really, I've talked a lot about search today, but as a company as well, we recognize that search itself alone, without machine learning recommendations, is not as strong as it is with, right? So we have a good amount of our team that works directly on those because they're kind of they're synonymous. They help each other out quite a bit. Because there's not a lot of recommendation machine learning without search, without a place to have it be stored and be scalable. And there's also no really good search without recommenders as well. But finally, just kind of wrapping up here. This is just a good example with another one of our customers that came off of Indeka. They're highly transactional. They see probably an uptick of probably 2 gigabytes of data per month. So, but they started at 72 servers with Indeka, currently with only 12 servers now with Fusion. So we took their current environment, shrunk it down to 12 servers, and it's still continuing to grow over time. So just kind of a quick kind of final note here. We actually just released Fusion. Everyone internally have been calling it Fusion 3.0, but it's officially now we officially released Fusion 3. And the primary goals with Fusion 3 was to actually make it easier to use. So we actually created, an index, what we call an index workbench and a query workbench, both of which, take the core of the index pipelines and then allow you to essentially make changes on the fly, preview those changes, and then save it, and then either re-index content or publish your query pipeline out to your users to use. So, so a lot of ease of use things coming there. We've also, I think as Michael mentioned earlier, we are in a transition here. You can deploy Fusion on-premise. You can deploy it on a cloud environment, and we're also in the process of moving to hopefully eventually a managed environment, but we're moving into an official cloud offering. So we've also implemented a single sign-on handler for Fusion that will allow you to connect Fusion and its native security realm into your native single sign-on realm in the cloud. So we're making a lot of strides there in Fusion 3.0 to make that occur. But I think that's it for my half of the presentation. Thanks so much for coming out and listening. If you have any questions or if you want to see a deep dive with Fusion, feel free to reach out to any of the presenters here online, and we'll be happy to get you hooked up with anyone internally with Lucidworks. Thanks again.
Great. Thank you, William. And I think Maria was also asked that we mention MC+A's managed service offering. The thought really there is that as you look at your strategic objectives, where to spend your money, you can outsource the deprecated part to us at MC+A. We're experts in managing and operating the technology while we have a conversation with you on the direction that you'd like to go. So feel free to reach out to me or marketing to get a conversation around that. And then I think we're going to switch over to the questions.
Right. Thank you, Michael, and thank you, William, for the presentation. We hope you take full advantage of this session. Let me remind you again that if you do have any more questions, just feel free to put those in the chat area. We still have a few more minutes to get those questions answered. So I'm going to go ahead and start question. It says, will our GSA actually shut off in 2018? We believe we could continue using it in an unsupported mode. So can you clarify that?
Thank you. And the answer is the GSA will shut off at the end of the term. So there is no option currently, unless you have special arrangements with Google, to continue to operate the technology at the end of the license term.
All right. Thank you, Michael. Then next question. What does a transition to Fusion would look like, and how long would it take?
Sure. It varies for sure from a customer to customer. We're making it a lot easier. Obviously GSA we've known has been sunsetting for a while. So we have a couple prototypes that should make transitioning from GSA to Fusion a lot simpler. One is actually a GSA connector that will connect Fusion directly to a GSA index and actually just pull the index directly from GSA into Fusion. So that way, if you just want to make a direct transition without having to worry about I want to have to, reset up my connectors and, set all that up, we can actually just take that data directly from GSA and port it directly to Fusion. We're also working on, for Lucidworks View, we're also working on something that will take the GSA XSLT for their UI and actually port that as well directly into Fusion. So the migration process has become simpler over time. But definitely, it depends on the complexity of what your GSA environment is, and we're definitely happy to sit and speak with your GSA teams about what it would take and what it looks like and what it would take to migrate that over to Fusion.
Yeah, I'll add a little to that. I don't think that it's as simple as William said, but there are a lot, but relative to other technologies or relative to other projects, relative to other migrations, there's a wealth of toolkits that Lucidworks has, that MC+A has, that makes that integration easier than it. You're not going to be the one. I mean, you can do it on your own, and you'd be doing it one time. Lucidworks teams, MC+A's teams have done it multiple times, so it's you're going to get the experience from us to know what the blockers and the challenges are, because you really want to set it up to run. Let's get a proof of concept. Let's get some things migrated. Now let's look at what this thing should really be doing. How can we take advantage of Fusion? How can we take advantage of the subscription that we have, the connectors that Fusion has built into it? How do we plug into other areas and really make this thing a compelling piece of technology.
Thank you, Michael. Okay, so I'm gonna keep reading these questions. It says, does Fusion 3 support SAML?
Yes, Fusion 3 does support SAML authentication. We've upgraded it to I think that's actually part of the SSO portion of it. So yeah, we do support SAML for sure.
Thank you. We have questions about the connectors, like out-of-the-box connectors for Fusion. Specifically here, is there an Adobe AEM connector available with Fusion?
We have an AEM connector actually in prototype with 2 of our customers who requested it. So I would predict that it would actually be officially part of our platform, probably in the next couple of releases. But if a customer is interested in an AEM connector, we're happy to do a proof of concept with them with our current prototype AEM connector.
I'd add to that we've worked with AEM with the GSA as well.
Thank you. Okay, so will Fusion provide an API level compatibility layer for searching?
I'm sorry, Maria, could you please repeat that question actually?
Yeah, of course. Will Fusion provide an API level compatibility layer for searching?
For searching in general, I mean, Fusion itself has an API layer directly that allows users to essentially make a request into Fusion with whatever query they submit, and Fusion will give them a response. So the API layer is already there. Maybe I'm not quite understanding the question 100%, but our API layer will allow you to create deep, rich search applications natively out of the box.
The Vue uses the API layer to do everything, right?
Correct. Correct. Yep. Everything is done through that. Yep. So, and you can even use the API layer to access Solr without having to touch Solr's API either. So, yeah. So there's a lot of depth to our API layer that allows you to build search applications off of.
Thank you, William. Let me remind you, if you have any specific questions or your question was not fully answered, just feel free to email us or contact us, and we'll be happy to give you a more concise, very specific answer. Just another general question. What do we do with the devices when the license expires? I think this refers to the GSA specifically.
Well, I think my brother's using a couple of them for end tables, but otherwise, you own title to the hardware. Google asks that you remove the software before using them for any purpose, or you can potentially contact them to send it back to them if you don't want to remove the software from it. But they will be bricked, but otherwise they are it's a Dell 2U. I mean, they're pretty beefy. They have 8 cores, tons of RAM. I can't remember the specific model off the top of my head right now, but I can send it out. I think an R710 or 720.
All right. Let me see. I think that's all the questions we have right now. I don't know if there's anything else that you, William, or Michael would like to add at this point.
I think there's just one last question we missed, which was, I don't think that you can answer this, but what's the expected date for the cloud-based, the managed services directly from Lucidworks?
Yeah, I can make some predictions of that, because I did so before this webinar. I actually talked to a couple of our guys just to get some idea of that. So we just released 3.0 yesterday, so we're definitely transitioning for probably at least the next 6 months on cloud. Our CEO, I think, or CTO, both kind of aggressively said July, which is that's definitely pretty aggressive. So I would probably say end of Q3 to beginning of Q4 would probably be ideal. We are at some point, probably in July, we will start taking in some beta customers at that point. So if you're interested in a preview, that'd be the time to contact us, and we can get you set up with a beta environment for that.
Excellent, and we'll stay tuned to hear the more officially. So please don't hold William to that. It's just the best knowledge he has.
All right, so let's wrap this up. Michael, can we go to the next slide, please? Well, first of all, thank you, William, so much for joining us today, and thank you to all of you for taking this moment to join this conversation. Hope, again, you take full advantage of this session. Please feel free to connect with us and ask us any questions related to these or other products. Visit our website, MC+A.com. You can also send us an email at marketing@mc+A.com or reach out through any of our social media accounts, and we'll be very happy to assist you. Thank you so much for your attention, and have a good day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.